So tell us about some of your projects in the digital humanities.
So, well, we have this project in Venice called the Venice Time Machine, which is a collaboration between the Ecole Polytechnique Federale de Lausanne, the University of Ca' Foscari in Venezia, and the State Archive of Venice. And one of the ideas is to use the wonderful archive there in Venice to make a kind of both, if you want, a Facebook of the past and a Google map of the past, to turn to some extent these as these huge corridors with all these documents into an information system that could be accessible.
And why are Facebook and Google the goal for you?
Well, in terms of interfaces, it's a way of saying, if I may, that we have now this experience of the big data of the present. I mean, we are now browsing the web and we can go and zoom on any part of the earth. We have a rather dense information about what's happening, who we are interacting with. We have this notion about the access to a social network, which is giving a kind of photography about, well, the state of society. No, we know it's a bit more complex, of course, but what is really missing in this picture is time. I mean, we would like just to add a slider to all these services, if I may. I mean, I would like, if I actually see a place, I would like to see how it was like 50 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, maybe 500 years ago. Is that possible some way or another? If I see actually someone in a Wikipedia page, maybe which is mentioned, I mean, I may want to reconstruct the social network of that person and browse it in the same way I'm browsing in Facebook today, with the same type of density. And so, really, I think the challenge is bringing in the past the type of density we have for data of the present.
And would this be an effort involving lots of people volunteering their time and knowledge?
Well, the crucial idea is that this needs to be a collective effort, in a sense that we are trying with the Venice Time Machine to demonstrate, I mean, how that can be done in a given context for a given archive. The whole idea is to have all the technology in open access, that's one thing, all the data in open access, and more generally to associate with that research program an educational program that permits, in fact, to different person in the world to make their local time machine, if I may. I mean, for another city, that would be like a rather big scale already, but also for more smaller initiatives. And what we could potentially envision, but in, I don't know, 10, 20 years, is having all these local time machines connecting with one another and making, well, what is really needed now is just a global time machine. I mean, if we want to make these Facebook of the past, or these Google Maps of the past, if we want to add these sliders to all these services, we need to have like a distributed initiative. And we use that particular project in Venice as a kind of test bed and as a demonstrator of potentially how that type of thing can be done.
And have you seen an appetite in the public for this kind of thing?
Oh yeah, I think really, I mean, it could vary from curiosity about seeing how a place was. I mean, how was the place where you are? I mean, that is obviously something which we see a lot of time. Genealogy is something very important for people. I mean, how can you trace back your own roots? So it could come from a very, I would say, personal point of view, or also, I mean, when you look at a subject, you just recreate context. And to some extent, that's something which is now difficult when we're not looking at digital history and we're looking at monographs, articles. It's difficult to actually articulate all these information with one another. It's also difficult to detect whether there are conflicting views. One of the big ideas in turning these archives into information system and to construct new narratives, new maps on this is precisely to try to recreate or to negotiate a common history.
And aside from your own projects, what are your favourite examples of public history within digital media?
Well, I think there are many different examples which are interesting. There's of course all the examples linked with crowdsourcing or maybe, I mean, it's now called crowd sifting, transcription of document. I mean, when you have like large sets of document and you try to engage people in transcribing them, what you discover most of the time is not that you have like huge number of persons that are joining it, but like in the Transcribe Bethlehem project, which is quite well known in that domain, it was about finding in the end a small number of people highly motivated that actually transcribe a large number of those documents. And so I think that is showing, I mean, the different facets of way of involving audiences. I mean, it's not that you will have everybody contributing in the same way. It's more about giving the opportunity to some people actually to join in, and these people you may not have encountered them in a normal, I would say, academic setting or industrial setting.
So let's imagine in a few years we have these wonderful websites where we can drag our way through the past and look at historical figures in detail at our own will. What then becomes the role of the professional academic historian?
Well, I think we're really now training a new generation of historians, which have double skills. I mean, skills which are computational and interpretative. I mean, the big thing with big data is that you still need to interpret them in some way. I mean, a good example, I think, is the work we're doing on reconstructing the maps of Venice. When you have an ancient document, I mean, it's not that you can scan it and analyzing it with a machine. I mean, you really need to understand, I mean, the typology of document you see, I mean, the abacus, I mean, how actually that particular cadastre can be used to interpret, I mean, how a street was 200 years ago, for instance. And for that, you need information about history of representation, you need information about history of a particular city. And so there's no automatic way of doing that. And that is typically something which is not completely due, I mean, it needs some training. And actually we are designing courses to that. So I really see, yeah, I mean, academic trained historians playing a key role, because it's in this huge information system, some information needs really a lot of knowledge to be interpreted, and this doesn't mean it's actually the end of the story. It could be negotiated, articulated, contradicted, but still it's something which needs a lot of skills.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.